always assume I give you the best of me, baby.
Hi y'all, what is going on? It is your man Jarard Kenneth. Thank you for checking out another YouTube segment called the Why Love segment. I was asked, who are you? Why are you doing what you're doing with the music, videos? But who are you? I'll start it off like this. My full name is Jarard Kenneth Andrew Arnold. I love that name. Long story behind that. I won't get into that for this particular segment. Obviously, I'm a Christian. I am a believer. Ethnicity-wise, I'm African American. Historically, I am a Hebrew Israelite. That's a real thing. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. I'm a little bit of an MC. I definitely produce. I'm a little bit of a poet. I started off initially, for real, writing poems. I wrote a song when I was 9. I like this girl. I'm not gonna get into that. But officially, I was around like 12, 13 years old, and I started writing poetry. And I had a good friend that looked at my music, looked at my poetry and said, these can be songs. So from that point on, I started songwriting. So that was like 1998. 1998 going into, 1999 going into the year 2000 that I started officially songwriting and producing at the age of 15. I'm 35 now, I'll be 36 in November, so it's been a long time. I'm a lover. I will say that I am a protector. I'm a teacher. I've operated as a teacher, and I would still consider myself to be a teacher, like a legitimate teacher, teaching. I do speak Spanish. I'm a Spanish speaker. Yo hablo en español, pero no quiero seguir totalmente en español. And that's interesting in itself. I'm a military vet. Long story about that as well, but I did serve in the military. I am an author. I wrote a book, published it, and I am a podcaster, and obviously I'm a vlogger. For the most part, that's it in a nutshell, like far as who I am in reference to the things that I do, like titles. But the reason behind why am I doing these things, initially it stemmed from my previous marriage. When I got married at 19 and got divorced at 25. But I would say that it extends further than that when I was a kid. I'm not gonna say I saw a lot of crazy stuff, but I saw a lot of stuff that many of you all have experienced, and there are some people watching this that have experienced or witnessed far more worse things. I've witnessed infidelity, not like walking in on somebody. Well, I walked in on my ex-wife. It's funny now, it wasn't funny then. But as far as like being in the house, experiencing what your parents are going through in reference to infidelity, I experienced that. I experienced domestic violence in my home. It wasn't like to the extent of other people, but I did witness it. Essentially, I grew up with this mindset. I didn't want to be like my biological father. I didn't want to be like, in certain cases, I didn't want to be like my stepfather as well. I wanted to be this type of dude to where a woman would really appreciate me. That's initially how all this stuff started. I've been singing all of my life, singing in church, singing in high school, singing everywhere since the age of 4. But as far as like the reason why I'm talking about music and or talking about relationships and love and marriage is because of what transpired in my house when I was a kid. It wasn't completely dysfunctional in comparison to other people's households and marriages, but we did have our little dysfunctions. I wrote music for years, and it wasn't until the year 2005. Well, actually, let's backtrack. I always wrote about love. I always pictured in my head at least how I had a general idea of how what my relationship would be with my wife whenever I did get married. It's before I ever got married. So it's like as a kid, as a teenager, like for the most part, marriage and genuine love was instilled. Certain things were instilled in me that I would say in some shape, form, or fashion were based on hurt. I seen things, I was hurt, things happened to me in reference to my parents, all three of my parents, my biological father, my stepfather, and my mother. So some things I learned, like I was hurt, so it's like, okay, I don't want to do that, or I want to be this, or I want to be that, and I want to be accepted, and da-da-da-da-da. So, but for the most part, when I wrote about music, it was from initially from a love perspective. It came from a hypersexual perspective as well, because I wanted acceptance. But there are certain things that transpired in my mother's current marriage when I was a kid that caused me to have a strong disdain for even my mother. Because there were certain things that I saw, certain things that I witnessed, certain things that I experienced. And I was just like, yo, so how does that look? You talk about my father, my biological father, but then I see somebody else do the same thing and you don't leave him. Why? So anyways, all this stuff stems up to the point to where I'm at now in reference to marriage and songwriting. I got married at 19 years old. I met my ex-wife in Korea. I lived in Korea. I married her because I thought that her son was my son. I don't have any kids. To my understanding, the last thing she said to me about like 2-3 years ago was that she finally changed his last name. The young man, he's, I think he should be going on maybe 16 or 17, 16. And the young man, he never knew his father. He had my last name, and up to my understanding 2 years ago, she finally changed his last name. I don't know if she changed it to her maiden name or she changed it to the biological father's maiden name. But when I met her, I initially thought that I had got her pregnant. And because of all the stuff that I dealt with in relation to the mother-son, father-son relationship growing up, I had the mindset of I refuse to be like my biological, especially my biological father, more than my stepdad. Like my stepdad did identical things. It was the fact that whenever my mother would say, you're just like your dad, she always spoke in reference to academic stuff. But for me, it was everything. There was domestic violence, there was infidelity. And then there was, my dad's pretty much like a genius, but he didn't thoroughly operate it in his genius. And then you see me, I'm just creative. And then it's like, when it came to academics, it's like, well, you don't apply yourself. You're so smart. You're just like your dad. But it's like, I never looked at it just from an academic perspective. I looked at it from the whole entire spectrum of what my father did and did not do. I looked at it from a perspective of his absence. And so from a kid, all the way up until I left for the military, I was being told that I was just like my father. And so when I was presented an opportunity to not be like my father, I was always like a faithful dude. For the most part, I tried to do the playboy thing, and I was like, this is hard. I don't want to do that. Like, this is rough. When I met my ex-wife, we were, getting into it. We had sex or whatever. And I initially thought that I got her pregnant. So we dated for like a year and some change, a lot of drama, unnecessary drama. I had broke off the engagement, then we ended up getting married anyways. In between the breakup of the engagement, I did meet other women, but I broke up with them to try to work out stuff with my ex-wife, because in the back of my head, all I heard was, you're just like your dad. And for me, I was like, I refuse to be like that. So in my book, Why Love? We're created for a relationship. What I said was, in reference to my ex-wife and marrying her, I say I did the right thing with the wrong person. And this is going to segue later on into why I wrote the book, why more so am I doing my music, and why people are looking at me sideways. So in the middle of a lot of infidelity between me and my ex-wife, there was a lot of domestic violence. I got jumped on a lot, and I refused to actually fight back. But at one point, I defended myself. The second time she attacked me, I defended myself, and basically it cost me my military career. But I still chose to be with her, because in the back of my head, I was like, I didn't want to be like my dad. I wanted to make this work. I wanted my family. I wanted to be better than my dad. It cost me my military career. I did the right thing with the wrong person. And even with her, she had her own hurts and experiences and stuff that she dealt with and wasn't healed from. So we were both two hurt people. Later, when we got married in 2004, the very next year I got out the military. We basically were not legally separated, but we were separated. And I remember talking to my sister, and I said, I want to write different music for the most part. I said, I want to write music to help people not make the same mistakes that I made. I didn't want people to go through the things that I went through. I said, even if I have an enemy, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy if I had any, if I'm unbeknownst to me or whatever, I don't know. But I wouldn't want that for that person. And that was in 2005. And that is still the case right now. But all the way up to now, my heart is still the same way. I don't want anybody to go through the things that I went through in my marriage, nor the things I went through in my various relationships after my marriage. Majority of my relationships after marriage, especially after marriage, was a lot of infidelity. I got cheated on a lot. But I still believed in love. I still believed in having a healthy relationship. And so even with my music, I would write all these hopeful, romantic thoughts and ideas. about what it would be like to have a healthy relationship with somebody, to have a healthy relationship with a woman that desired me and I desired her. Not just, I want to get married just to get married and I want this social stuff. No, but we actually build together. She saw things in me and I saw things in her, and we would cultivate those things together. My heart is still that way. And you would think that I would be severely jaded. I've dated friends. I've like female friends, of course, because I ain't rap like that. You know what y'all call it, cis? Whatever. But anyways, I'm a heterosexual male. I love women, real natural born women that's capable of having kids, that has a uterus. I've dated random women, and each time my heart would be broken and I would have to live with these disappointments. And there's been times where I dated somebody and it just didn't work out. I was like, I'm not gonna waste your time. I'm not gonna break your heart. And I still broke her heart or their hearts in the middle of not trying to break their hearts, because I was like, look, this isn't it for us, and I'm not gonna force myself into something, nor will I sit there and continue or entertain something. I can't do the same thing that women have done to me. All the music that I write talks about, like, for the most part, literal experiences. And then the other music that I write, as far as the hopeful romantic stuff, as far as like things that I wish would transpire with me. One of the major songs on my project, my first project, called Love, learning one's very essence. Basically, we were learning about each other. I understood learning, but I never grasped the whole thing of love languages just yet. But I just knew what love was, and I knew that love required you to learn about somebody. I understood that I had to understand that person, and she had to understand me, and we had to grow together. I realized that when I first thought of that concept, I was every bit of 17 years old, and I didn't expound upon it until I was, 2011? I don't know how old I was then. Like 25, 26. And so one of the first songs that is on my project, my first official project, was called Conversation. And there's another song called I Should Have Died that I redid, and I released it in 2017. But in the song Conversation, basically I say to myself, this is what I would have wanted to happen had I met who's meant to be my real wife. And so the second verse goes into basically me seeing this woman and me envisioning how it was going to look when I first met her. I thought I was going to meet her in church, and I was going to see her worshiping God, and I was going to be just enamored by the way that she was crying out to God. And any woman I met has never happened that way. I had preferences, I had all these different things, but essentially at the core of it all, I wanted a woman to love me as much as I would love her. I wanted to build with a woman as much as she wanted to build with me. And to be honest, it never happened. So it's like, so why are you doing this? Why are you making this type of music? Why are you writing this book? Why are you doing these blogs? Why are you doing these podcasts for? And honestly, and I always say this, even if I never get remarried, even if I never find the woman that God desires for me to be with, even if it doesn't actually happen for real, and I'm not talking about like somebody just pretending and then just changing your who you are, but you're actually the person, like you fit that role, you desire to fit that position, not just for your own personal sake, but because you see what we can actually do together. Not just make kids and make babies, and I want kids, I want to make babies, I want to practice making kids with my wife. Yes, God. Even if that doesn't happen for me, I write these songs, I write these poems, I comment on my Facebook and my IG, my social medias, and I do my podcast, and I do my lives. Because even if it doesn't happen for me, I still want to see it happen for other people. A legitimate, even if I feel some type of way about it not happening with me, I still want to see it happen with you. And for the most part, it hasn't happened for me. And I mean, there's a plethora of reasons why. Things just didn't work out with different women. People want what they want. We all have different expectations. Some women that I dealt with, majority of the women that I dealt with, felt as though that they didn't have to reciprocate any type of love that I was giving them. It was love me the way I want to be loved. And I'm going to just give you whatever I got. You're gonna have to be okay with it and content with it, because I just know you just want sex anyways. They're like, nah, I want more than just sex. I want us to grow and understand and be cognizant of each other. And so basically, even if it doesn't happen for me, I still wanted to see it happen for other people. There's a scripture that says, and it's in the book of Ecclesiastes, it talks about there's a time for mourning and there's a time for celebration. And basically it gets to a point where the preacher, or King Solomon, he says to mourn when people mourn, celebrate when people celebrate. Now, some things are questionable for me in the realm of marriage, because I'm like, God, how are you okay with that? But it is what it is. And I'll celebrate with you, when it's a God ordained thing or God is blessing you. I will celebrate with you. So even if I don't get that, I'm going to be excited for you. I'm going to be happy for you, whether I know you or not. And people that's watching this, maybe my Facebook friends, my IG friends, can attest. However I see happy anniversary, or hey, we got married, or hey, we got engaged, I'm genuinely happy. And in the back of my mind, I'm hoping, like, God is going to happen for me soon. God, things are going to happen for me as far as my finances and all these different things. It's going to happen for me soon. But in the meantime, while I'm in my waiting room, I'm going to make this music. And even after I get married, I'm going to continue to make this music. I'm going to continue to write these blogs. I'm going to continue writing. I need to finish my other book. I'm going to continue to do that. So why, Jarard, who are you? I'm a lover. I'm a lover and a fighter. Physically, I love to fight. I love physically fighting. I did mixed martial arts and I wrestle. But I'm a lover. I'm an intense lover. I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. I'm willing to show my vulnerableness. I'm willing to show my imperfections. I'm willing to show, as a man, my insecurities. That's me. That's who I am. I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit when I'm right. And people don't like stuff like that. Ultimately, I want to be pleasing to God. I understand the severity of marriage. When I got divorced in 2009, actually in the middle of trying to reconcile my ex-wife, I realized just how serious marriage was. After I found out that her son wasn't my kid, all I thought was, God, I want to do things different. I found myself constantly compromising and not being appreciated and being taken for granted, and be mind boggled as to the women that will cry and say, why? I want a good man. I want this. I want that. And then when you're in the presence of one, you treat him like trash because he doesn't fit what you want. So who is Jarard Kenneth? Jarard Kenneth, he's healed. He's whole. He was severely broken. He was severely wounded. He was severely disappointed. And even after all of that, he's still severely hopeful. He's severely, devastatingly loving and caring. And ultimately, it's being his heart. People don't like it. They say, like, you bleed on people. But my heart bleeds on my music. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And then sometimes I transition it back to my chest. But I bleed on my lyrics. I bleed when I produce. I bleed on my podcast. I bleed on my vlogs. I bleed when I speak to people, because my heart, not in the sense where I'm hurt in my heart, but my heart goes out to people because I'm like, yo, I can understand, or I can relate, or I can try to put myself in your shoes. And the crazy part is that I'm literally doing that because scripture tells us to love your neighbor as yourself, as you would love yourself. I do want people to hear my stuff. I want to travel, all the cliche stuff. I want to travel around the world. I want to sing all my songs. I want to be on interviews and be on TV and maybe do a movie, like a legitimate movie here and there, and not have to compromise my faith to do it. Like, I want to do all those great things, but at the core of it all, as a man, I want my wife. I want my wife. And I understand that we're going to do great things together, and understand that just like Adam had an ordained calling, but he couldn't do everything until he met his wife. He can only go so far with what God called him to do. And even with him only going so far, he did great things before he woke up to his wife. He did great things. So that's it, y'all. This is me being really transparent, me being honest, But yeah, check out my music. Check out my book, Why Love Was Created for a Relationship. Check out my podcast as well. It's entitled Supposed to Be Different. It's based on a song that I wrote in reference to marriage. Follow me at any of the following social media sites: IG, Facebook, Twitter, obviously YouTube. Check out my website, JarardKenneth.com. Yeah, I hope that you guys got a general idea of who I am and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And I pray that it blesses you, whether you're a believer or not. My goal is to be a light to you. My goal is to be an example of Jesus Christ, Yahushua HaMashiach. All right. Thanks for watching this. Peace and God bless.